Good morning, team. Glad that you've made it time to just tune in to In the Headlines on Good Morning Kenya. From talking about what is happening across the political world to matters health, this is a place to be every morning from 6:30. So we bring you up to speed with all stories that have been making headlines. Just in case you did not get my name, it's Regina Manyara. Now let's start off with matters health, where the Cabinet Secretary Aden Duale has vowed to restore public trust, transparency and accountability in healthcare financing in Kenya. The CS said the hospital owed claims of above 10 million shillings by the defunct National Insurance Fund NHIF will only be paid after a thorough scrutiny by the National Health Insurance Fund pending medical claims verification committee. According to the records from the Ministry of Health, the defunct NHIF owes healthcare providers approximately 33 billion shillings.
Monday morning at Afya House, Nairobi. The first assignment on Health Cabinet Secretary Aden Duale's desk was to inaugurate the National Health Insurance Fund Pending Medical Claims Verification Committee that was gazetted on the 28th of March 2025. The committee, under the chairmanship of James Mosiro and his deputy Dr. Anne Wamai, will comprise of 11 members. The committee is expected to scrutinize the hospital claims above 10 million shillings by the defunct National Health Insurance Fund NHIF and complete the process within 90 days, after which a payment plan will be agreed upon.
And I said 3 months, not 6 months, not 3 months and 1 day, I said 3 months.
It will also verify the authenticity of all pending medical claims, identify and recommend actions on any fraudulent, false or exaggerated claims, make recommendations on necessary action for disposal or settlement of identified pending claims, propose reforms or measures that will ensure or prevent the recurrence of unverified or accumulated claims in the future.
We have taken this step to restore public trust, accountability, and transparency in the financing of the healthcare system in Kenya. This committee has been established to provide an independent, thorough, and transparent review of the medical claims submitted to the defunct NHIF.
The committee will be required to pay keen attention to some facilities that reportedly offered services without valid contracts or outside the scope of their contracts. Other areas include facilities that offered services beyond the hospital level, doctors claiming against services outside their areas of specialization, exaggerated invoices, manipulation of member records and their dependents, unsupported surgeries, unwarranted admissions or prolonged stays in hospitals, reported claims by non-existent facilities, duplicated claims, among others.
I would therefore like to urge and challenge the committee to thoroughly scrutinize the outstanding claims and only recommend genuine claims for payment.
The task before us is sensitive. The public is looking at us, and stakeholders must have trust in what we are going to do. And therefore, there is high need of being objective.
The claims to be reviewed were made between the 1st of July 2022 and 30th of September 2024.
We'll be keeping tabs on that particular development, bearing in mind towards the end of last week, we saw the Ombudsman wade into this conversation and asked the powers that be to ensure that the operational challenges that Taifa Care that is provided oversight by SHA actually run smoothly for the sake of a majority, or rather all Kenyans now, as the healthcare. Remember, government is also working at attaining universal healthcare, and this is one of the policy changes that was effected to ensure that we get there. Now to security. 5 chiefs abducted in Mandera County by suspected Al-Shabaab militants while traveling to El Wak town in February this year have been released. Interior Cabinet Secretary Kipchumba Murkomen, who has begun his 6-day working tour of the coast region, says the chiefs are now in the hands of Kenyan officials and the process of reuniting them with their families is ongoing.
The 5 chiefs who were traveling in a car heading to El Wak for official duty were hijacked at the Resuki village on 3rd February this year. The chiefs were going to meet and prepare for a planned visit by President William Ruto to the region that very week. A multi-agency team was put together to rescue them. Around 2 months later, Interior Cabinet Secretary Kipchumba Murkomen says the chiefs have been released and are now in the hands of Kenyan officials, and they'll be arriving home soon.
We will be commenting further in the near future, once our chiefs are within the country, and we'll give you even more updates on the progress and what we are doing.
The chiefs have been released after 60 days in captivity in Somalia. The chiefs are Mohammed Adawa, Mohammed Hassan, and Assistant Chief Ibrahim Gabou. Others are Senior Chief Abdi Hassan Surau and Mohammed Nur Hache. The Cabinet Secretary attributed the breakthrough to collaborative efforts between the national and county governments with the support of the local community.
This is very good news based on collaborative efforts. As I announced before, that as a government, we decided to work together with the community and to work with the county government of Mandera and the local community, and this process has borne fruit.
He commended the officers for making huge sacrifices to secure the country.
The men and women who have gone out there working in the field, especially along our borders, are doing a fantastic job to protect the rest of us. We don't speak about this every day, but it just needs to be known by all Kenyans that we are safe because our police officers, our NPR, our chiefs, our assistant chiefs, and many citizens in the community who are cooperating with the security sector are helping us to keep our country safe.
That is a development that has elicited quite the debate, especially on social media platforms, with a majority of Kenyans questioning exactly what transpired. You know, maybe because we've consumed a lot of notions left, right, and center when it comes to matters of security, and that, you know, we do not negotiate with terrorists. Exactly what happened? What was there a deal that was reached, and what now happens, especially to the security apparatus that is stationed on our very borders? We had during the Ramadan, have a group believed to also be Al-Shabaab in Lamu coming to a community, giving a lecture and walking out of Kenyan territory with no much resistance from the security apparatus. We'll be keeping tabs on the security situation in our country, especially along the borders now. Now, former Health Cabinet Secretary Susan Nakumencha and former Health Principal Secretary Engineer Peter Tum were at pains to explain scandals in the health docket during their tenure as they were vetted by legislators. The duo were grilled on their suitability to hold public office by the National Assembly Committee on Defense and Foreign Relations on the 3.7 billion shilling scandal that rocked the Ministry of Health, as well as claims of mismanagement and the persistent strikes by medics that threatened to cripple the public health sector. Here's a recap.
It was a day of grilling for former Health Cabinet Secretary Susan Nakumencha and former Health Principal Secretary Peter Tum as they faced the National Assembly Committee on Defense over their suitability for the post of permanent UN Habitat Representative in Nairobi and Democratic Republic of Congo Ambassador, respectively. The ghost of a 3.7 billion shillings mosquito net scandal during their tenure at Afya House returned to haunt them, with their integrity and shifting roles in government put to question.
What is the reason for the appointing officer, to change your roles so frequently? Is it because you are not a good performer?
Who is that particular person who instructed that the tendering process be removed from your department?
It wasn't for any other procurement. It was the specific one for mosquito nets, removed from my department, given to another department to handle for purposes of procuring, and you know the rest is history.
The members of parliament questioned the PS grasp of the historical roots of conflict in DRC. Lawmakers also demanded answers on the National Health Insurance Fund scandal, questioning why they did not prosecute any officials linked to the scam.
Your name was linked to mosquito nets scandal involving 3.7 billion, and which attracted national and international scrutiny.
Issue of procurement. It wasn't the PS for medical services. It was a PS for the other department then that had been created under the same ministry, and Did I have oversight on that? The answer is no.
Meanwhile, former Health CS Susan Nakumicha was also cornered over the claims that former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua may have had a hand in the health-related procurement scandals, an allegation she neither confirmed or denied.
At the point while I was serving chair, and with the information that I was given, his involvement was not there. I got to learn of his involvement when the House was going through the impeachment process.
Meanwhile, former Senator Judith Pareno was grilled by the National Assembly Legal Affairs Committee on her suitability to hold office as a principal secretary in the State Department for Justice and Legal Affairs.
Garnered over the years, I have shown that I've earned the public trust to run institutions for this public and to be able to perform.
Former East African Community PS Abdi Dubat on his part pledged to improve bilateral relations between Kenya and Tanzania.
I'm going to lead the team very well. I'm going to institute reforms that will make sure that the consulate basically is pronounced in terms of the job that it does to uphold the public image of the Republic of Kenya, to stamp the authority of Kenya as an anchor state in the EAC.
Former Nyeri Deputy Governor Caroline Karugu, PS nominee for State Department for East African Community Affairs, also defended her suitability to hold office.
Now, still keeping up with Marta's interviews, remember we are keeping tabs on what is happening when it comes to IEBC, that is the electoral body that is still continuing with its recruitment exercise, and interviews are still happening at the College of Insurance here in Nairobi, and we have a team on hand to keep us updated. Now, Prime Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi says the government is committed to supporting agricultural research to address food security in the face of the ramped increased population. Speaking at the UN complex in Gigiri while opening the consultative group on International Agricultural Research Science Week, Mudavadi said the forum provides an opportunity for agricultural researchers to come up with solutions that will help mitigate challenges plaguing the sector.
It is during a meeting of the Consultative Group on International Agricultural Research Science Week at UN Gigiri that players in the agricultural sector noted that Kenya's agricultural research system needs to be dynamic, innovative and well-coordinated, while focusing on demand-driven research and technology development to improve food security, increase agricultural productivity and promote sustainable practices. Prime Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi, who opened the meeting, challenged the sector players to focus on climate-smart agriculture, considering the food security challenges within the country.
The theme of this year's assembly is timely, considering the unprecedented environmental and food security challenges that the world faces today. The only way forward is through science-driven solutions and multi-stakeholder partnerships.
He noted that Kenya is committed to supporting agricultural research for the country to achieve sustainable agriculture and resilient food systems.
Kenya is fully committed to supporting agricultural research and innovation. It is a call to action for governments, researchers, private sector players, and development partners to chart a new path for sustainable agriculture and resilient food systems.
To each one of you gathered here today, from across continents, institutions, and disciplines, all united by a shared vision for transforming food systems and building a climate-resilient, food and nutrition-secure future.
The International Crops Research Institute for the Semi-Arid Tropics Director General Dr. Himanshu Patak noted that research is needed to develop climate-resilient crops and sustainable farming practices that can withstand the impacts of climate change.
So the drylands which are already poor yielder are now facing more and more complex challenges of climate change, water scarcity, soil degradation, and of course, several interrelated issues. In ICRISAT, we work on how to improve the productivity of drylands.
Players in the sector further noted that developing high-yielding, disease- and pest-resistant and drought-tolerant crop varieties is crucial to meet the food demand for the growing population. With the Kenyan government committing to support agricultural research, perhaps this move will help to transform the sector. For KBC Channel 1, I am Teresa Mutai.
The Science Week is ongoing at UN Gigiri, and we have a team of business reporters domiciled there to do an update on what will be the outcomes of that particular setup. To the corridors now. The High Court has given the green light for the auction of properties belonging to senior economic advisor Moses Kuria. In a ruling delivered earlier yesterday, Justice Alim Visram declined to stop the auction by Garam Investment Limited on grounds that Kuria had failed to meet his loan obligations. The ruling now paves way for the auction that is set for today, the 8th of April. Our court reporter Letua Deborah has details of this and other stories from the corridors of justice.
The court ruled that the president's economic advisor Moses Kuria was duly notified of the impending action and had ample time to settle the debt on a loan secured using high-value properties belonging to Kuria located in Ruaka and Juja, Kiambu County, but did not act. Justice Alim Visram found that there were no sufficient grounds to grant an injunction stopping the auction. In another legal development, the Kibera Law Courts on Monday ordered the continued detention of Eric Mutinda for 21 days as investigations into the murder of a multimedia university student intensify. Principal Magistrate Zainab Abdul directed that the suspect be held at Capitol Hill Police Station until April 28th to allow the DNA analysis and mental evaluation. The suspect was arrested on April 4th, 3 days after the alleged killing of 22-year-old students within the university premises.
Serious questions that we have posed to the court and to the Director of Public Prosecution and the Director of the DCI is up to what level of either negligence or culpability did the university get involved itself into this matter.
Prosecutors argue that the case points to suspected femicide, a charge that carries the death penalty, and warned that the suspect may interfere with the ongoing probe if released.
It's believed that the respondent is highly connected in this case. So far, the investigating officer is yet to submit the exhibits which were found at the scene of crime to the government analyst for analysis.
My client is not accused, and therefore not being accused should not be held and have his constitutional right under Article 29 of the right to liberty arbitrarily.
Still on keeping up with matters now business is that African countries should reduce their reliance on foreign funding for critical ICT and digital infrastructure projects. According to Cabinet Secretary for Information, Communication and the Digital Economy, William Kabogo, Africa has the capacity to meet its own technological and economic needs through homegrown solutions and innovation.
Data shows Africa's internet penetration rate hovers 43%, well below the global average. Yet the potential is immense. The International Finance Corporation projects that digital transformation could add up to $180 billion to Africa's GDP by 2025. At the International Communication Union Regional Development Forum in Nairobi, speakers called for urgent action to support Africa's digital transformation and accelerate its shift to a digital economy by the year 2028. This includes scaling up innovation, expanding broadband infrastructure, enhancing connectivity, integrating emerging technologies, and harmonizing digital policies.
How do we build local
digital platforms that are called home to our countries, Kenya and the continent. How do we build e-commerce platforms? How do we grow innovation? How do we enable startups to grow?
Africa is developing pretty fast, and affordability has become possible in terms of devices and also the use of connectivity. We also see that in the trends, mobile broadband is the primary platform which is helping the world to communicate.
Kabogo says Africa should strive to cut dependency on foreign funding.
Let me tell you, we can get our own funding. All we need to do is be careful about what our priorities are.
Instead, he says, Africa should focus on intra-African data exchange, knowledge sharing, and capacity building to keep pace with rapid technological change.
If you go to Nigeria, a very fast-moving society, they have their successes. When you come to Nairobi, we say we are the Silicon Savannah of Africa. If we cross-change in between ourselves, we should be able to get to the top and then tell our development partners, this is what we think you can do with us, as opposed to them telling us this is where we think we can help you do the following.
Delegates emphasized the need to build synergies across countries, establish a dedicated funding agency, and prioritize homegrown solutions that reflect African realities and aspirations.
Establishing a fund for Africa for building the capacity for infrastructure is very important.
We need to begin to share. I think that we as the continent need to take the lead on this.
Away from ICT into matters trade, where agro-processors should take advantage of the current tariffs, reciprocal tariffs on number of countries by the U.S. and increase exports to America. The Kenya National Chamber of Commerce and Industry says the tariff increase to 10% imposed on Kenyan products is significantly lower than the rates Kenya's major competitors in the U.S. textile market face.
185 countries that were slapped with tariff increase ranging from 10 to 50% by the U.S. government. Trade between Kenya and the U.S. is estimated to reach 177 billion shillings, with Kenya exporting 64.3 billion shillings worth of goods, while buying products worth 112.8 billion shillings. Textiles, apparel, and coffee account for over 40% of Kenya's export to the U.S. market. The Kenya National Chamber of Commerce and Industry says the move by the U.S. government to increase tariffs on a number of nations will open up the market for more Kenyan textile and apparel products. According to the Kenya National Chamber of Commerce and Industry, the 10% tariff on Kenyan products is significantly lower than the rates facing Vietnam at 46%, Sri Lanka at 44%, Bangladesh at 7%, China at 4%, Pakistan at 29%, and India at 26%, which are Kenya's major competitors in textile manufacturing. Textile and apparel manufacturers have been encouraged to invest in facility upgrades, value addition processes, and workforce development to meet anticipated increased demand. To mitigate against the new tariffs, manufacturers have been advised to increase value addition on coffee, tea, and horticulture goods destined for the U.S. market. However, the Kenya National Chamber of Commerce and Industry admits that 10% tariff will increase cost for exporters in the short term, denying them much-needed capital for expansion. The Kenya National Chamber of Commerce and Industry warns that any additional long-term protectionism policies by the U.S. will reduce Kenya exporters' market access, urging exporters to expand their international markets. Benson Rioba reporting for Lunchtime News.
Apologies for that oversight. I think we are a little bit too early. We are not even due for breakfast yet. So now let's speak sports, and we start off with some good news where the Kenya Under-17 girls national team, that is the Junior Starlets, wrapped up their preparatory tour in Morocco on a high, registering an impressive 2-0 win over Morocco under-17 in their second friendly match played yesterday night. That is April 7th at the Mohammed VI Sports Complex. Now, this win comes days after a closely contested 1-1 draw in the first encounter held on Thursday. Now, the first leg is scheduled for Sunday, April 20th. This year at the Nyayo Stadium, with the return leg set for Friday 25th at the Stade Olympe in Yaoundé. The aggregate winner will book a coveted ticket to the FIFA Under-17 Women's World Cup, which will be hosted in Morocco from October 17th to the 8th of this year. So we wish the ladies the very best of success and congratulations for that win yesterday night. Now back home here, the Kenya Judo Federation President Shadrack Maluki has announced his candidature for the National Olympic Committee of Kenya NOC presidency, aiming to succeed Paul Tergat, who has served a maximum of 2 terms in office. The NOC elections are set for the 24th of this month, with Maluki set to face off against the current Secretary General Francis Mutuku for the president's position for a tenure of 4 years.
Maluki, who is the current NOC first vice president, a position he has served for a period of 8 years, said he is running for presidency on an athlete-centered NOC, leadership with integrity, inclusivity and prosperity, empowerment and innovation, and financial stability and sustainability.
The only way to ensure that the so-called small federations also go onto the podium and stop just representing us, they be there to compete and win medals, is to ensure that we embark on the youth programs for all the federations.
The Judo African president unveiled his candidature and his 10-member team candidates vying for several positions. Under his unveiled lineup, AK Youth Director Barnaba Koril is his proposed first vice president, and Kenya Hockey Union President Nashon Randiek has his second vice. Table tennis president Andrew Modibo will be vying for the position of the Secretary General, with the softball chair Francis Karugu gunning for Deputy SG, while Fred Chege from fencing is going for the treasurer's position, which will be deputized by Charles Mose from the Cycling Federation.
I've worn the shoes of an athlete. I've been an international athlete representing my country in judo. I have done it for my country. I've been the deputy president, loyal to my president, Dr. Paul Tergat, for the last 8 years. I know the tricks I've learned from the best. I am equipped to take this position.
2-time Olympic marathon champion Eliud Kipchoge has been fronted as an athlete representative, while Lilian Mududa, Jocelyn Nyambura and rugby president Sasha Mutai will be going for the committee member position.
This new dawn as my vision. We share a common vision, loving our country and loving what we know best, developing the sport and growing it together.
The NOC election is set for 24th of this month, with Maluki set to face off against his current Secretary General Francis Mutuku. 29 delegates from NOC-affiliated federations will participate in the elections.
That effectively puts a cap on matters in the headlines this morning. Be sure to peruse our website, that is www.kbc.co.ke, for further details on stories making headlines locally, regionally and even internationally. Later in the course of the day, at 9 p.m. tonight, we're going to be addressing the new university funding model. What has been experienced with HELB as well as COOPS? Tonight on The Shift, we focus on matters education. See you then. Your feedback you can get us on X at KBC Channel 1. My handle is at Ray Manyara. How has been your experience thus far under the new model? Keep tweeting. See you then. Have a great day.